So it's the end of the first day of the first round of the Aram Khachaturian Cello competition. There's quite a lot of words to say in a very short space of time. I've been practicing it all day. I can spell his name now. Saying it out loud is a bit risky. These are meant to be sort of thoughts that arise as a result of listening to 8 cellists. So I have heard the same work 8 times over all day, and I began the day thinking, oh great, I get to hear the same work. And I can tell you at the end of the day that I never want to hear Schubert's Arpeggione Sonata. I can't pronounce that. Again, I'm sick of it, which is unfortunate because in actual fact, got to hear 6 more tomorrow. So we've heard Schubert's Arpeggione Sonata, all of them, and then they've had a choice of Bach suites and either Tchaikovsky, Popper's Dance of the Elves. I don't think we've heard that, and a Tchaikovsky Capriccioso. But what's been really interesting is that you can hear 8 entirely different works from 8 different musicians, and when it's the same work, it's kind of surprising. It really shows what's involved in the performance process. One of the things that has really struck me today has been the appropriateness of the voice for particular works. Where Schubert is concerned, there's been one performance today. I'm not going to mention the names of the people because it doesn't feel right to do that. But there was one performer today who seemed to be able to identify the voice that he wanted to use. And I don't mean the voice I don't mean a personality of the performer, say. I mean the voice that is characterized by the quality of the tone in the instrument. This one performer, I think, had identified the voice that he wanted to use in order to interpret the story that he believed the composer intended in the work. It sounds very convoluted, but I totally get it now. That there is an intention that needs to be identified by the musician. That then needs to be implemented by the musician. But the story that's being told is not necessarily the story of the musician. And this one performer seemed to have got it because my attention was completely on that performer all the time. And it started from a sort of a timid place. So the character, I don't mean the performer was timid, but the character was timid. That character developed, and then that original character's statement returned at the end, and that statement, that character had slightly changed as a result of the development. That, if you don't already know, that's basically sonata form. If you understand sonata form in harmonic progression, that's one thing. But when you can actually detect it in terms of emotional expression, that's like, oh my God, that's amazing. I think that where that performer was concerned, that was what was going on, and I think that is why my attention was completely on that person. And I think that's the key to it. I think there were other performances of the Schubert which felt as though the voice wasn't quite right. In one of them, it was almost like a concerto voice. It was sort of like the bold sort of instrument against the orchestra type voice. It was a very big sound. It was almost too big. Hang on, Schubert, there's a piano behind you. Whoa. And then there was another voice where another cellist where it was so personal. It wasn't inward looking. It was just like, actually, I want a little bit more. Actually, I need this voice to really sing. And in saying all of that, there is still musicality. It's not that you're saying that these performers are not musical. Clearly they are, and they're clearly expressive. It's just that when you hear all of these things back to back, live, in a sort of a one-off thing, I mean, that's what makes it exciting. You end up sort of, you end up, as an audience member, you end up judging. Bach, I think, needs to be strong. There needs to be great support. There was one performer who had the most amazing bow control. I mean, just amazing strength in his arm. Oh, joyous. And what that means is that the tone is just complete right to the end of the bar. And I think Bach needs that. It's terribly introspective. I hear it as introspective music, very reflective, very personal, individual. It's a big statement, Bach, but that doesn't mean that it's timid. Even in the most emotionally powerful moments, I think there needs to be support and confidence in it. And sometimes I didn't hear that today. Sometimes it felt just a little bit sort of veering onto and we don't want that. We want confident vulnerability. One performer, nerves got the better of him. He just stood up in the middle of his playing, bowed his head and walked off the stage. I've never experienced that before as an audience member, never. And I totally understand why he did it. I don't in any way criticise him for it. I just felt for him totally. You know, in that moment, you're trying to play the notes, but also in the moment you're thinking, this is not going the way I wanted to go, and actually there's no point in getting to the end. We might as well just cut our losses and go. I mean, that I don't know what that process is like internally.